All right, Bison Run, back with you with Richard and Dakota Dry. Hello, Richard and Dakota. Dakota and Richard.
Hi.
Yeah, thanks again for bringing your music down to KALX. It was a real pleasure, and I was definitely a little bit more than I expected in a good way.
Oh, good.
So why don't you just give a little history of the band? Obviously, it's you can give us the short version because there may be quite a bit. You don't need to give the whole family history, but just why don't you give our listeners a history about how the band started, and we can kind of go from there.
Okay. Well, I'll start and Dakota, you chime in if I get anything wrong. I mean, Dakota's been singing all her life, and from in the cars when she was 1, and we loved her voice, and I used to play music all the time, and pretty soon, when she was pretty young, we started recording some of her songs downstairs in a little studio that I have, and they were a lot of fun. But after a while, it just got to the point where she was writing songs, and she was starting to sing backup harmonies to my songs, and I thought they sounded so much better with her contribution that I thought, this is going someplace. I'm really enjoying this, and maybe we want to perform out. And she said she did, so we started to do that.
We did some open mics.
We did a few open mics and got really good responses. And then we did the West Coast Songwriters competitions. And when we did those, we actually won the San Francisco West Coast Songwriters Best Performance in San Francisco for one of our songs, and that month, and then we won it again in Berkeley for a different song, and then we started getting some gigs, and we also did a tour.
Nice.
Do 2 tours around the Southwest.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good. And when was around how many years ago? Did this take place? So just to give our listeners a reference, why don't you tell our listeners your ages, and then we can kind of put this in a slightly historical, chronological.
Well, I'm 13, and I think we started playing out maybe around when I was 10-ish.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
Yeah, nice.
That sounds right.
Around when you were 10, and I was like 25.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. When the early songwriting began to crystallize, were these sort of spontaneous occurrences, like you were just playing one of your songs, Richard, and Dakota just chimed in with a harmony, or Dakota just picked up your ukulele and the song came out of the sky?
Do you remember?
I actually don't really remember exactly how it happened, but
I kind of have some memory because we'd go down and we record, like she'd make up a song in the car, and I was like, oh, okay, let's go down and record that. And I remember your very first one was like when you were 3 or 4 or something, African music. Remember that one? La, 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 African music.
Wow.
It was so great. And then I think I play Afro-Cuban drums at Ashkenaz on Saturday morning sometimes, the Judas Justice. And so she started, I think, got that from that. And then that's exactly what happened. I would be playing some songs and she would start singing back up and harmonizing. She's just, she was a natural for harmonizing. That was really fun.
Yeah, we used to play like the harmony game where, one of us would sing a note and then we would have to try to harmonize with that note. But the ukulele kind of started later on. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, like 2 years ago maybe.
Yeah.
And slowly.
Yeah, very slowly. And every day we're adding more and more to every song, like different solos and different pieces to try to add on to each one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely heard a strong, to put it in a time frame, sort of a 1960s folk, I don't know, sort of psychedelia. That's sort of a broad term. I don't necessarily mean it, but just a real kind of creative, inspired.
Thanks. Yeah.
Sound. And what are some of your musical influences? I know I heard you mention Joni Mitchell, and you did a Dolly Parton cover, so quite a diverse choices of covers, but what are some other musical influences?
Do you want to say first?
Oh, sure. Well, I guess Paul Simon, to me, I think that his songwriting, I try to use his like storytelling type of songwriting, and definitely Joni Mitchell, as you said.
You really like her
I
intervals.
really like her like intervals, her lyrics, and I really love her Blue album. That's my favorite of hers.
I'd say, I mean, I think you got the time frame pretty right there, late 60s, early 70s for me. You know, Leonard Cohen, Paul Simon, Cat Stevens. And then I think there's definitely some influence from some later folks, Ray LaMontagne, Glenn Hansard, some of those.
Yeah.
But most of my songs were written before I even heard those folks. And, you know, John Lennon, Beatles, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Nice. And Dakota, being in your age group, do you listen to some modern music? I imagine you know, the kids you go to school with or people your age, you know, listening to you know, more current stuff. Do you have any modern influences yourself?
You know, I am not really a fan of like the modern pop music. But, you know, I do enjoy Alicia Keys, and I take maybe a little bit from her. But, yeah, and I don't know, but I also kind of like musical
John Mayer
theater.
also?
Oh, yeah, John Mayer, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also like musical theater, and a lot of my friends are into musical theater as well, so that's kind of the more modern musical theater that I listen to. Yeah.
Nice. Like, what's that, High School Musical? Are you familiar with that one?
No, I don't know. I love Hairspray. That's more recent. And, yeah, that's my all-time favorite musical, really.
She listens to that maybe once a day at least.
All right, good. Okay, nice. So you have a CD. I'm holding a copy of your CD entitled "Snowflake Circus," which was recorded, just released about just about a year ago or so. Why don't you tell our listeners about the recording process a little bit? You mentioned you have a studio at your house. I don't know if you went in to went into another studio. If this was, why don't you tell listeners about the recording and how that went, and then also how they can get their hands on it.
Okay, well, let me start with the last part first, so I don't forget, which is that we have a website, richardanddakotadry.com, and you can go also to iTunes or CD Baby, and it's an EP, so it has 6 songs. And these are songs that we recorded over an extended period of time. Many of them actually all of them at my studio downstairs. Except we also had some help from BZ Lewis with some mixing, and we did some mastering down in LA. And
I also did.
Do you remember that studio?
I don't remember exactly.
Well, one of the wonderful things about the West Coast Songwriters is when you win something that month, you get some free studio time, and we did have a couple of hours of free studio, 3 hours of free studio time for one of the songs that we kind of re-recorded there, and many of our new songs are not on that, but Pacific Coast Highway, Little Girl, an old one of Dakota's called Butterfly, and the Circle Around, which you heard on there, is also on there, and one other.
I think All Too Much.
All Too Much, which we don't perform out that much, but that's on there as well.
Yeah, nice. Very good. And you have other songs.
Oh, before you go on, do you mind if I also mention that for a few songs, our friend David Brooks plays bass on a couple of those songs as well.
And the design for the cover and inside of it, and the CD itself was done by Simone Nahar, kind of like my aunt.
Nice. Nice of her to do that. And that's, again, that's available at your website. How about, and you said streaming formats,
Yeah,
iTunes,
you can buy individual songs, too, if you like them on iTunes and CD Baby, and they're all, you can go to richarddakotadry.com, or you can just go to iTunes and type in our name, and that will come up.
Yeah, nice. So let's just talk a little bit about some of your other interests. I was reading, Richard, that you're, in addition to a songwriter and performer, you're a writer and a teacher as well. So why don't you talk about that, and also a University of California, Berkeley graduate?
That's right.
And I just discovered that tonight.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about that, and perhaps the relationship or that you find between, the literature and being a person of words and tying that into the songwriting experience.
Well, it's funny you should say that because, there are a few quotes. Maybe a few people picked up on some of the quotes from the poems. Maybe you can call into KALX and win free tickets to our show tomorrow, which is free. So don't call in. But if you know those actual quotes, I didn't get permission from you yet to tell people to call in. So, I teach at Las Positas College. I'm an English instructor there, full-time since 1999-ish or something like that. It's the sister college to Chabot, and it's a wonderful English department. And I did graduate from Cal in 90, and then from San Francisco State in creative writing. And I was really fortunate, and I got a novel published. It's called Leaving, and that came out in 2002. That was that crazy year I talked about when my mother was very sick, and then Dakota was born, and my book was published, and then my mother died the next year. So in any case, a lot of the songs come from that time period in my life where I was going through a lot of really difficult and intense experiences, and songwriting for me, just like writing the books I've written, are a way of trying to work out those feelings, just express my feelings and get through them, really.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that kind of covers it.
Yeah, absolutely. In Dakota, I was also reading that you attend an art school yourself. So why don't you tell our listeners some about your experiences in that, and just a little bit about perhaps some of your other interests.
Well, I go to Oakland School for the Arts, and I'm going into high school, but for middle school, I was in the theater department. For high school, I'm actually going to be in the vocal department. I do a lot of musical theater with the Berkeley Playhouse, and that's something that I love doing and very much. The school that I go to, I think, is really great because you get to be around people with similar interests that understand expressing yourself through your art.
Nice. And do you have, as a singer and a vocalist, you have some formal training? I was pretty impressed with your vocal range and skills there. Have you taken some lessons, more traditional vocal lessons from, say, a singing teacher?
I haven't really done many lessons, but I was, when I was younger, in a choir for maybe a year or two, and that was kind of my only vocal training. So I'm hoping that in high school, when I do go into the vocal department, I can get more technique and theory training.
Yeah, nice. And how about your ukulele playing? Are you mostly self-taught in that? Or?
I am self-taught, but I did get a few lessons, and I just kind of started picking out different melodies and understanding what a chord is. I can understand how to form that, knowing what the strings are. Just say, these are the notes in the chord. Let's try to find that on the strings, and looking things up online and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot out there available online. But yeah, I like the interplay, and oftentimes the ukulele is used more as a rhythm instrument. But Dakota, you were doing some nice lead melodies against Richard Dad's guitar strumming, which had a unique effect because in some ways ukulele it kind of really cuts through in a different way than guitars. You hear guitar solos, not there should be an end to that, but it definitely has a different sound as like a lead melodic instrument, which is nice.
I think that I was trying to take advantage of her because when we do the recordings, we have 24 or infinite tracks, and I have a number of guitar solos here and there. But when we play out, it's just so wonderful now to be able to have someone, when I'm playing rhythm, be able to do some arpeggios or whatever little solos going on. And actually, Oblivion, the song that we played tonight, that was the first time we ever played it. That's Dakota's first time writing and playing a ukulele solo, right?
Solo, yeah.
Solo,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that was really fun for us.
Yeah,
to see her
keep it
starting
up.
to grow.
Yeah.
Keep that going. That's great. Again, KALX listeners, I am speaking with Richard and Dakota Dry. I'd like to also talk a little bit about your band name. I think it's actually a really catchy name, and be honest, it's almost like it could be a name of a band without actually being your real name. So,
Well, actually, her name is no.
No.
So, but it just, I don't know, for some reason like having the last name Dry, it conjures up the Western images of kind of wide open spaces and.
Oh, I'm glad you think so. There's actually a little funny story about that, which is that when we started the band together, I wanted to call it Dakota and Richard Dry because I felt like she was really, I love playing with her, and I liked that she was kind of the lead name, but she was just like dead set against that. She was like, no, Dakota Dry, I like the alliteration, I want Dakota Dry to be there, so Richard Dakota. So she made us change it, and so I had already built a website, and I had to go back and change all the pages and everything, so
Yeah.
that's that. I'm glad you like it. That name, caused me a lot of pain when I was a little kid. As you can imagine, Richard Dry can be changed to a number of things that I probably can't say on the air.
Yeah. Fly or wire.
It's the Richard part that gets changed.
Okay, yeah. Nice. So again, why don't you remind our listeners you have a performance tomorrow?
Oh, that's right.
Just
Yes.
blocks away from here at the Starry Plow, and anything else that's coming up in the near future that our listeners would like to hear about.
Well, tomorrow we're going to be playing at the Starry Plow. It's free, and it's all ages, and there's a band that's going to go on at 4 called the Terrarials, and then we're going to go on around 5, and it'd be great if you could make it.
Yeah, come say hello if you heard the broadcast and that's what got you there. And they have food and drink and everything, so it's a great place to play. And after that, we're taking a little bit of a break because school's starting up, and also she's going to audition for another play, and so there's a couple stuff going on. I also play in another band called Radiograph, and we are playing out around, and so I play drums for that one. So
You have any gigs coming up in that? If you can, I'm sure listeners may want to hear.
Yes, you can go to radiographband.com to find out what we're doing in terms of that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And your website, richardanddakotadry.com.
Yeah, it's all one word, Richard and Dakota Dry. Yeah.
richardanddakotadry.com. That you'll be posting future shows and just upcoming
Exactly.
events on
We
that
have
as they materialize.
Yeah, and we have videos of our songs and other things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we take it back to the archives?
Just wanted to say thank you for having us. I really enjoyed it, and it's great to be back on campus at Berkeley.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you for bringing the music on the air. Is real nice, and also we will have the CD Snowflake Circus in our feature bin probably by the end of August once I get it reviewed. So all right, so again, big thanks to our KALX Live crew, Manish and all his assistants.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys.